Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a big idea from philosophy, one that might just completely change how you think about happiness. And it all comes from one brilliant thinker. Okay, so let's jump right in with a kind of a weird question, but it gets right to the heart of everything we're talking about today. Now, it might sound a little silly, but trust me, how you answer this says a lot about what you really value in life. So, to even start to tackle that question, we first need to get a little background. We got to dip our toes into the field of ethics, which, is just the fancy philosophy term for figuring out what makes an action right or wrong. Basically, how we should live our lives. And one of the biggest, most popular theories in ethics is something called utilitarianism. And it offers a really simple but powerful rule for how to act. Just focus on the results. The best, most moral choice? It's the one that creates the greatest amount of happiness for the greatest number of people. Simple as that. And that brings us to the star of our show today, John Stuart Mill. Now, Mill was a huge fan of utilitarianism, but he saw a potential problem in that simple formula. So he added a crucial and, honestly, a game-changing twist to the whole thing. Okay, so to really get what Mill did and why it was so important, we have to see where utilitarianism fits into the bigger picture of ethical theories. And it really all comes down to one big disagreement. Is it about the rules or is it about the results? So yeah, are you focused on the rules you follow no matter what? Or are you focused on the results you get? On one side, you have deontology, which says some things, like lying, are just wrong, period. The consequences don't matter. But on the other side, you've got consequentialism, and that's where utilitarianism lives. And for them, the outcome is the only thing that matters. And this classic thought experiment, it just perfectly highlights the difference. So, would you lie to save someone's life? A hardcore rule follower, a deontologist, might say, nope, lying is always wrong. But a utilitarian, they're going to look at the outcome and say, well, saving a life creates way more good than the harm from one little lie, so of course, that's the right thing to do. Right, but see, this focus purely on results, it kind of creates a glitch. If our only job is to max out happiness, does it really matter how we get there? I mean, is any kind of pleasure a good pleasure as long as it adds to the total? And this brings us right back to that pig from the beginning. Think about it, a pig whose life is all about simple stuff like warm mud and good food. You could say that pig is 100% satisfied. But then you have a philosopher like Socrates, always wrestling with these huge, difficult questions. He might feel way less satisfied. So is the pig's life actually better? And this is the exact problem that Mill swoops in to solve with his absolutely brilliant idea. He basically argued that we've been looking at happiness all wrong because we're treating all pleasure as if it's the same. He came up with this total game changer of an idea, that there are two fundamentally different kinds of pleasure. You've got your lower pleasures. Those are all about the body, sensations. But then you have higher pleasures. And these are the ones that use what makes us human, our minds, our sense of morality, our love of art and beauty. And this whole concept is just perfectly wrapped up in his most famous quote. What Mill is saying here is that the quality of our happiness is so much more important than the sheer quantity. One single moment of that deep, higher pleasure is worth more than an entire lifetime of just simple, easy satisfaction. So let's break this down into something a little more practical. Higher pleasures, those are things that really engage our minds. Reading a great book, learning something new, getting lost in a piece of music. Lower pleasures are more about the body, grabbing your favorite snack, or just, kicking back on the couch. Now, both are types of pleasure, for sure, but Mill is crystal clear. They are not equally valuable. This brings up a really modern problem, doesn't it? If these higher pleasures are so much better for us, why do we so often pick the lower, easier ones? I mean, how many times have you found yourself scrolling on your phone instead of picking up that book you wanted to read? It's crazy, but Mill's philosophy totally predicts our modern world. The truth is, lower pleasures are just easier. They require almost no effort, and they give you that instant gratification, that quick little dopamine hit that makes you want to do it again. But here's the thing. Mill had a lot of faith in people. He was convinced that experience is the best teacher. He argued that once you've truly experienced both kinds of pleasure, you'll just know. You'll recognize that deeper, more lasting fulfillment that comes from the higher stuff, and you just won't be satisfied with the cheap thrills anymore. Okay, so what's the big takeaway here? How do we take this idea from the 1800s and actually use it in our lives today? Well, the core message is a really powerful reminder to just stop and think about the quality of our happiness, not just the quantity. It's a challenge, really. A challenge to actively go after experiences that enrich us, intellectually, morally, creatively, and not just sit back and consume whatever's easiest. And that really leaves us with one last thing to think about, turning this big philosophical idea into a really personal question for you. It's not about being judgmental about our pleasures, not at all. It's about being conscious and choosing a path that we know will lead to a deeper, more meaningful kind of satisfaction in the long run.